Welcome back to Ancient Wisdom, Modern Life. Today, we're diving into Proverbs Chapter 5, a chapter that speaks about a timeless issue, the dangers of adultery, and the call for purity in relationships. In this chapter, wisdom is portrayed as a life-preserving force, warning against destructive choices that can cause personal, familial, and societal ruin. We'll explore its ancient context, as well as how we can apply its lessons in our modern lives. Let's get started. In the first two verses, the writer of Proverbs encourages the reader to listen carefully to wisdom's guidance, particularly in matters of relationships. This advice is given with the hope that wisdom will preserve your path and lead you to a life of fulfillment. Proverbs 5 verses 1 to 2. My son, be attentive to my wisdom. Incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion, and your lips may guard knowledge. These verses set the stage for the entire chapter, emphasizing that wisdom is essential to protecting our lives from poor choices, especially when it comes to our relationships. Today, distractions are everywhere. With the constant pull of technology and fleeting temptations, the wisdom from this chapter encourages us to stay focused and heed the warning before it's too late. As we move into verses 3 to 6, the father warns his son about the seductive words and allure of an adulterous woman. Her speech is described as honeyed and smooth, but in the end, it leads to bitterness and death. Proverbs 5 verses 3 to 4. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. These verses use powerful imagery to describe the fleeting appeal of sin and the eventual destruction it brings. The temptation seems sweet in the moment, but it leads to suffering and regret. Throughout history, infidelity has wreaked havoc on families, communities, and societies. In modern life, this may not always be about physical adultery. It can manifest in emotional or digital affairs, or even the seductive allure of social media that distracts us from our commitments. Verses 7 to 14 expand on the devastating consequences of giving in to temptation. The father warns that adultery will lead to a loss of honor, financial ruin, and even the risk of death. In essence, it's a road that leads to total destruction. Proverbs 5 verses 9 to 10. Lest you give your honor to others and your years to the merciless, lest strangers take their fill of your strength, and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. The consequences are serious. Adultery leads to a loss of reputation, financial cost, and emotional damage, things that are difficult to recover from. The wisdom here calls us to consider the long-term impact of our choices. Even today, cheating can lead to profound consequences. It's not just the immediate damage. It can affect your relationships, career, and even your mental health for years to come. In verses 15 to 20, the focus shifts to the beauty of marital faithfulness. The father compares the faithful relationship between husband and wife to drinking from your own well, something pure and satisfying. Proverbs 5 verse 15. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Here, the cistern and well are metaphors for marriage. The idea is that intimacy and commitment within marriage should be cherished and protected, providing joy and satisfaction. In modern relationships, the wisdom here reminds us that faithfulness and exclusivity bring a deep sense of security and satisfaction. When we invest in our relationships and nurture them with loyalty, we build a foundation of trust and joy. The final verses of the chapter remind us that God is always watching our actions. There is no escaping His awareness. He sees all things. The father urges his son to understand that the consequences of immorality are not just earthly but eternal. This can be a sobering thought, but also a comforting one. God's presence reminds us that our choices matter, and that we can always seek His guidance and forgiveness when we stray. In today's world, it's easy to feel like we're alone in our decisions, But Proverbs 5 reminds us that we're never out of God's sight. Whether we choose wisdom or foolishness, He sees, and His wisdom is always available to us. So what can we take away from Proverbs 5? The chapter challenges us to pursue faithfulness, protect our relationships, and live with integrity. It reminds us that the allure of momentary pleasure is fleeting, but the rewards of wisdom, peace, security, and lasting joy are far greater. Thanks for joining me today as we explored the wisdom of Proverbs 5. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you've got thoughts or experiences to share about navigating the challenges of relationships, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned for a full reading of Chapter 5 from the New Living Translation. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Listen carefully to my wise counsel. Then you will show discernment, and your lips will express what you've learned. For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is as bitter as poison, as dangerous as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave. For she cares nothing about the path to life. She staggers down a crooked trail and doesn't realize it. So now, my sons, listen to me. Never stray from what I am about to say. Stay away from her. Don't go near the door of her house. If you do, you will lose your honor and will lose to merciless people all you have achieved. Strangers will consume your wealth, and someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. In the end, you will groan in anguish when disease consumes your body. You will say, "How I hated discipline! If only I had not ignored all the warnings! Oh, why didn't I listen to my teachers? Why didn't I pay attention to my instructors? I have come to the brink of utter ruin, and now I must face public disgrace. Drink water from your own well, share your love only with your wife. Why spill the water of your springs in the streets, having sex with just anyone? You should reserve it for yourselves. Never share it with strangers. Let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. She is a loving deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast satisfy you always. May you always be captivated by her love. Why be captivated, my son, by an immoral woman, or fondle the breasts of a promiscuous woman? For the Lord sees clearly what a man does, examining every path he takes. An evil man is held captive by his own sins. They are ropes that catch and hold him. He will die for lack of self-control. He will be lost because of his great foolishness.